Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about whether to look the magazine into the gun or not. And my vote has always been no. Don't look the magazine into the gun. Train to a level of automaticity, because there's more important things for you to be doing than staring at your gun when you don't need to. Now, I understand that there's times when you may need to look at your gun in a diagnostic manner, and that's where you develop what's called associative connection to, this skill that is trained to a level of automaticity. You're firing these neurons together so you can visually process information in order to take corrective action. Like when you get a dead trigger, there's two things that could be happening with that, and you might see it. You might actually see the back of your pistol out of battery, or you might see a little bit of brass, from a stovepipe, and that is associative. That's associative, and it should be corrected, appropriately. And, typically, if you get a dead trigger and you don't really see anything, you're probably going to do a diagnostic, check. Or if you get a click and no bang, you have corrected malfunctions enough to know, okay, I got to rack it. I don't do tap unless the first round out of my magazine was a click and no bang. It has never really helped at all. It has just robbed me of time. So, that's just me. But anyways, with that said, we're talking about reloads. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this incident where you're conducting a reload as an armed citizen. There have been things that you have had to visually process up until this point where you have decided, based on what you've taken in visually, body language, and also maybe certain threat indicators, seeing a weapon, seeing posturing and stuff like that, seeing that your environment is closing in to where you're going to have very little choice except to accept an attack or to fight back in some way, and also processing audible threats and back in that and scanning it to the seeing if the physical threat matches, right? There's a lot of mental things that are going on in your brain, a lot of calculations that are happening up to this point that has made you believe that you are seriously in imminent threat of serious bodily injury and or death. So, when you get to the point where you have to reload, did that stop? Probably not. Okay, that's one of the reasons. Number one, the threat is not over. So that threat still, needs our attention, because our gun is down, but we still need to see what we need to do. Do we need to take cover now because, okay, they've fallen to the ground even though that was my last mag? Okay, I'm going to take cover and scan my environment really quick, keep them in my peripherals, and I'll conduct my reload accordingly. But I'm going to improve my tactical situation in case they become a threat again. That you reload while you're going there. But you're prioritizing moving to cover instead of just standing there and engaging the threat and getting ready to engage the threat again. So you see what's happening and you respond to it. It's like, okay, next thing on my list is to quickly scan my environment, look for anybody that might cross and have a crossfire issue. Maybe there's a piece of concealment or cover that I can get behind, improve my situation, get ready to call 911, and hopefully you have, USCCA or some kind of insurance for that to help you along for this unfortunate event. But in the time it takes you to conduct a reload, there is visual indicators that can actually help you respond if that person is still enough of a threat to still be inflicting serious bodily injury and or death. It might come to the point where you actually, based on the information you're given, instead of staring at your gun, maybe you actually see that they are so close that it is not feasible for you to conduct your reload at this time, but instead, when you're here, maybe it's time to actually knuckle up and actually start striking because they are that close, or they are closing the distance. It's not unusual. It has happened. So, that's the thing. Don't be married to the concept of getting that gun up over saving your life just because the range theatrics, taught you that's the way you got to do it. For competition, it doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't. As long as you beat that timer, that's fine. That's why a holster you use for competition is not going to be the holster you use for concealed carry. Okay, so the gear that you're using is not going to help you in concealed carry. That's kind of like competition rigs are not going to help you in a combat situation where you're taking fire and stuff like that. You're having to work with a lot of stuff on a plate carrier or something like that. It's not going to work. So you need to match up your training for the situation that you're dealing with. Now, I understand looking at your gun while you're reloading when you're working in a team setting. When I was in the military, I worked in a team. I was infantry. I had a team behind me. I could actually peel out and conduct a reload and get the hell out of everybody's way so they could continue on. And I would, while I was doing that reload, I would get out of the way, but I would act as a spotter as well. And in the few seconds, I could see, okay, there's a squirter going to the east there. It's like, squirter 400 meters that way. Whatever. You can still function and conduct yourself, in a useful manner, I guess you could say. But that's my reason for not looking at my gun while reloading. Now, some people are like, well, what if you fumble? Then that would be called an anomaly. Just like if you're watching a crowd and you see somebody that doesn't fit, or something that doesn't fit in an environment, that is an anomaly, right? So that's when, yes, probably looking at the gun and looking at whatever the situation is to fix it, that might take priority. Okay? But, that's all going to be based on your training. There are ways in order to test your ability to do this, and one of the great ways to do it is intense physical exercise. Like, your heart rate needs to actually match the level of actual threat, like life being in danger type threat. I'm having trouble with words right now, but not enough coffee this morning. But anyways, that's my little spiel on that. But there are ways to test it, and it has become very unnatural for me to sit there and stare at the gun when it is not warranted in a diagnostic manner. I want to be processing information around me and checking things and using this lull to be useful and improve my situation and maybe change my course of action to a better tactic that will enhance my life-saving capability for myself. I know that sounds technical and tactical and everything and all sexy and stuff, but hey, it's good for the gram, right? But realistically, one of the things that you can do if you're actually wanting to transition away from this, now looking your magazine into your gun is a developmental stage. Just like staring at your front sight one last time before shifting focus on the target is a developmental stage. You need to actually get that proprioception and everything all aligned and that kinesthetic, alignment in your brain all right, and then start shifting away from that. And one good way to do that is actually watch something on TV and move while you're conducting reloads and process that information. And this is where kind of the tap rack bang kind of comes into play, because you tap rack assess. Like, you just pick a character, you're going to dry fire on that character, and then once you reload, if you get back there and they're still on screen, then you go ahead and give them dry fire. If it's shifted to somebody else, then you lower and you stand by and probably holster up until you see that character again, and you're working in those little cuts or whatever. That's just my advice. That's a fun way to actually use visual information in order to, respond. I guess you could say you're using visual information to dictate your actions. And that teaches you the difference between tap rack bang and tap rack assess. So you're using visual information to give you a reason to conduct your next move. So anyways, that's what it's all about. So staying in the fight is not just about, oh, well, we're not going to stop even though we're shot. It's staying in and continually improving your position and continuing to be able to fight. You can't fight if you blind yourself. We need those eyes. So stay in the fight. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and you guys have a good one.